Hey YouTube, this is the Art of Prepping. We're in part 8 now of our series of everyday carry, and we're just looking today at fire starters, things you can carry on your person to create a flame, to create sparks, to maybe light an emergency fire. So in this particular video, we're going to look at the top 3 main ways that most people, gravitate toward the most practical reasons. Now, a ferro rod or sometimes they call them metal matches or ferrocerium rods or flint-based strikers. Really, for the main, general population, they're not going to use them. But for us bushcrafters and preppers and hunters and campers, it really is an option. You kind of have to practice a little bit on using them. That's obvious, but once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad, especially if you have the proper tinder and you have a proper technique of how to strike them. So, having a small keychain size fire steel or ferro rod is going to be an option. With that being said, though, there's a lot of people who prefer matches, and that's okay. I'd probably stay away from matchbooks and, matches that are not, weather resistant. And if they have to be non weather resistant matches, put them in a nice little match case. This one might just even be a little bit too big for everyday carry. This is just a standard Coleman camping type of match case tube. And so that, you want to seal that up, real good to keep any kind of rain moisture out and humidity. But personally, I would go with storm matches or lifeboat matches. And you probably don't need that many, maybe 4 or 5, especially if you're a non-smoker in a very small package. Maybe if you can find a tube that's even smaller than this and just repurpose that type of tube or container. It could be maybe a very small medicine capsule or something that, you found around the house that you can put matches in and seal them up and keep them from getting broken by putting in your pocket. So matches is another option. But I think by far, though, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, what we really prefer are going to be lighters. And, Zippo lighters are cool and they're neat looking, but they're heavy, they're clunky, they're just, they're not sealed, so that there's a lot of evaporation problems with the fuel. Will basically just evaporate in a matter of a few days to a few weeks, and you won't have any fuel source. Also, they don't do very well with extended burn times. They're pretty crappy in that sense. The average Zippo lasts approximately around 20 to 22 minutes. And so, of course, you can adjust the flame on those, and you might be able to get another few minutes out of that if you really was to mess around with the wick. But in general, it's not very impressive for the size and heft and weight. What is impressive, though, are big lighters. I prefer these over generic lighters and Scripto lighters. And there's probably a whole medley of other brands I don't know about, but I just stick with these made in France big lighters. This lighter right here is over 3.5 years old, and it still works. I mean, I don't really know where the fuel is at. It feels like it's empty. It sounds empty, and it looks empty if you can put it up against the light, and I don't know. It's a magic lighter for me. This is a newer mini Bic right here. So they come in 2 sizes, the mini and the standard. And what you have here really is, when you break this down, a form factor, and you can see that it's a lot smaller in height, and also when you put it side by side here, you'll be able to see, though, if you can, the extreme difference, though, in the width. See how much wider the standard is than the mini. So you have a width difference, a height difference, a weight difference, and of course, when you have that, though, you have a different run times for these. Typically, though, when you're holding these, the average person with a continuous flame can only hold it for between 2 to 3 minutes because it gets so hot that you don't want to really hold it much longer. It won't so much damage it, but it's really not probably good for the lighter long term to hold it for extended amount of times. This is just to light things for a few seconds and go. The only downside on these is if you just hold this this button down, that some of the pressurized gas can't escape, and it's a problem if you have a lot of gear in a pack or a lot of gear in a pocket. You might accidentally depress that, and you could burn up some of your fuel. Could be not there when you need it. But with that being said, though, this is my number one choice for making fires, and the reason is just amazing when you dig a little bit deeper. and that information is about the run times. Now, before I get into run times, it does depend on your altitude. And what I mean by that is, the air gets thinner. There's less oxygen. The more, I guess you call it north, but as the higher we go up in altitude, up a mountain range, or if we go up, to a higher location than say in a valley or something. So the higher the altitude that we go, the less oxygen. So it'll actually have a little bit longer burn time because the oxygen's not there to burn off and to create a little bit hotter and a little bit stronger flame. With that being said, so when you're down in a valley or in a low altitude around sea level, it's possible to get a little bit less runtime. Now, also the other factor is how many times do you spark this thing, and how many times have you used it to relight things? If you're constantly doing half second, 1 second, 2 second burst, and you're constantly releasing a little bit of gas at a time, and really just working this, you may get a little less runtime. It may only be a few minutes less than someone who held it down continuous for 10, 20 minutes at a time. But there's those two factors, altitude and the way that you actually use the lighter, how many times you restrike the lighter. So with that being said, the meat and potatoes of this is that the standard lighter here gets an average of 1 hour of continuous use. 1 hour. And it's just an amazing figure when you really think about that. The average Zippo gets between 20 and 22 minutes. That's pretty amazing. And you compare it against the standard 1 hour. Let's say that it takes 6 seconds to create a fire. And most people can create a fire in less than 6 seconds. Let's just say that you're slow at making a fire and you don't have good tinder. That's still, an amazing 600 fires that you can make. Let's say that you're very good at making fires and you have excellent tinder and you only need 3 seconds of flame to catch each fire. That's 1,200 fires a standard BIC can actually make. Heck, if you could even make it even quicker, you could get more than 1,200 fires. That's just an amazing tool. And you can see that since I've had this for so many years, it's proof. So the independent tests have proved that you can get an hour out of this. Now, this is even, I think, a little bit more amazing because of the form factor, the mini BIC. Now, the mini BIC is actually only 1/3 of the capabilities of the standard. But when I say only, it's not a bad thing, though, because of look how small, and this is air weight, as we know. So, the manufacturer typically says around 20 minutes of runtime, but a lot of independent testers have shown that it typically ranges between 30 to 33 minutes. That's the most that I've been able to find from a reliable source, around 33 minutes. I think that particular gentleman was at a little bit higher altitude, and he was able to do that for 33 minutes. So even though they say that it's about 1/3 of the capabilities of a standard, some people have gotten as much as half, can get a half as much, which is an amazing accomplishment. And so, when you look at it that way, let's just say you can get 30 minutes out of this at 6 seconds. We're talking about 300 fires at 3 seconds each flame. We're talking about 600 fires out of a mini BIC. Just an amazing, amazing thing. So just wanted to pass that information along to you and just kind of remind you of the options that we have as people of prepared mind, and that always have some redundancies, maybe a lighter, maybe a small matchbook of matches, and maybe a ferro rod on your keychain, or maybe you just need one because you're just going to the groceries. But just remember, there's always options, and there's nothing wrong with trying new things. So my hat's off to the people at BIC. I didn't really even realize how good their product was until I even started looking into it a lot more recently. And I think it's an excellent item, and I'm going to go ahead and buy more of them. So you guys take care, and I'll catch you on the next part. Thanks.